Hello there, I'm Guildmaster Dan, and this is not the fourth wall. However, since I wanted to give you guys a little something since you've been so patient waiting for videos, I wanted to talk about something that I have planned for a fourth wall. So consider this a proto fourth wall episode. Not practiced, not edited or anything, just me talking about a subject, and you guys may be getting some advice out of it. I'll probably redo this as a proper fourth wall episode later once the hiatus is over, but for now, it's something that you guys can enjoy in the meantime. So, I was recently talking with a friend about running one-shots, and I realized, even though I have already done an episode on running games at a con, I did not talk about how to format a one-shot, how to develop a one-shot. And for those unfamiliar, a one-shot is a game that is meant to be played in one sitting, in a single session. Preferably, ideally you're looking at around 4 hours of play. So you're talking about, instead of running a campaign instead of running a campaign, running a single adventure that is ideally no longer than 4 hours. It could be less than that, it could be longer than that, depending upon how long your session is going to be, but it's designing a session for that time period. And some people have a hard time doing that. I've seen some people where they always overdevelop, and I've been guilty of this one in my past too, is where I develop an adventure that's supposed to be, epic and fun and full of stuff, and I overfill it. Where they only get maybe halfway through it before, it's the end of the session. Which isn't always fun. You always end up stopping at the end and explaining what was gonna happen, which players are like, oh, that'd be cool to play through. But they don't get to, because you put too much there. Or sometimes people underplan, so that the session ends like an hour early. And actually, that is better to do than the other one. It is actually better if your players go through the full adventure and end early. Maybe they didn't get to play as long, but at least you could then sit there for the last hour and just talk about, what happened during the game and what you enjoyed out of it. Maybe get some feedback from the players on how you could improve that adventure. Maybe even how to fill up the whole... That's actually better, because they still get the whole experience. They still got to experience everything, and got to see what they enjoyed and what they didn't enjoy, yada, yada, yada. Versus only getting to play through part of it and then feeling disappointed at the end they didn't get to see the rest. It's like playing up to the final boss in a JRPG only to have, your cousin pull out your disc and ice skate with it across the floor. You're really disappointed. Sure, you got the majority of the story and you could look up on Wikipedia or even YouTube, just watch the ending, but it's not the same. It's not the same, you guys! Funny enough, that didn't happen to me, that happened to Guildmouse. But the point being, it's better to not have enough than to have too much. That's kind of just a general rule of thumb to keep in mind. Because you're going for an encapsulated experience. You're going for a small, single-unit experience. But how do you do that? My suggestion, and this is what I typically do for con games, is base it around 3 main scenes. You have 3 scenes that are the major plot points. Sometimes you can have those arranged that these are the big battles that are pushing the story in whatever direction, or these are the 3 big moments, like given the assignment about the murder, finding out a twist in the murder, and then confronting, getting assigned to the murder case and being given the mystery, finding out who the real culprit is, and then confronting the real culprit. And ideally there might be another twist there at the end. But point being, 3 big scenes right there, and then you might have in the middle scenes, between those big points. But they're just, those in the middle scenes are minor. You're not gonna, let them go to town and just shop endlessly. This is a case where, since you're dealing with an encapsulated experience, you're not doing open world as much. Sure, they can go and interact with people, but you want to keep those interactions brief and to the point, so that they can get back to going to the mystery, or whatever the storyline is. I know for Mutants and Masterminds, we typically did them in 3 big battles, because at a con, and especially with the person I always ran it with, battles were the main way to go. But we always did the 3 big battles. You got the introductory the introductory battle just so new people can get used to the system. Then you have the middle battle. That was always interesting because I always tried to mix it up. When I run Mutants Masterminds games like Marvel or DC, I like throwing heroes against villains from elsewhere in the universe, like Batman up against Superman villains, or Superman up against Green Lantern villains, that sort of thing. And then the final combat, you have the big showdown that everything builds up to. We typically ran 2 tables that came together for the final showdown, so it felt especially epic. But I split into 3 scenes, and then they might have in the middle scenes where maybe they have to go through a facility, or maybe they have to investigate and find where to go next. And then they role play out, and they have their skill checks and their knowledge checks, and they do a little role playing with one another as they interact with NPCs, so on and so forth. But you have your 3 main scenes and just little scenes connecting them. That's my first main suggestion. The second one is another easy way that people can get distracted, or you lose time, is letting people make their own characters in the beginning for a one-shot. Mainly because it takes time. They won't fully know their character so much, especially if they didn't have time to think about it. Really, they'll just more be role-playing the mechanics than anything. If you're going to be running a one-shot, something I highly recommend that I've seen work very well for a lot of people is have pre-made characters for that. You make the characters, you actually give a little printout to your players of that character's history and like what their motivations are. Maybe have like what their fears and dreams, a little profile of that character, including what their motivations are in that adventure. Typically, you want these characters to know each other, and you want to have their relationship with the other pre-made characters spelled out, just so they know how these characters interact with each other normally. Typically, when you go this route, you want to have more characters than you're going to have players, just so you have variety for them to choose from. For example, in Mutants Masterminds, we'll typically aim for, a 6-player game. That's where the limit would be, and I'll have 7 characters to choose from, just so any player that sits down can look through the characters and pick which one is their favorite from those characters. And then they already have their description of how the character acts, so they just do their best to, act that out, to role-play that out. They don't have to worry about delving into a character's history and whatnot, because they have it right there. They don't have to worry about wondering what their character's dreams, motivation, because they have that right there. They don't have to worry about, how should my character... what sort of relationship should my character have with these other ones? It's already there. And, they might deviate a little bit from what's there, or, they might try their best to do it. Point being is they got something to go off of, and you don't have to have them waste time trying to come up with something on the fly. Both of those will go a great distance to help you encapsulate everything. Plus, when you're making those pre-made characters, when you're making their histories, already have them know each other, and already have them invested in what's going on. Give them a reason to do what the adventure is. Naturally, in Mutants and Masterminds, you're dealing with superheroes, but, like, for example, you could do fun thing like, I remember one time we ran a Marvel game. At one table was the Avengers, and the other table was a kill team. Essentially, it was essentially Red Hulk's Thunderbolts. It was a bunch of Marvel heroes that weren't afraid to kill. And in fact, the whole idea to the story was that they got together and decided, hey, we need to start killing mega villains. There was like one specific one they were hunting down, but point being, they all had a reason to go and do that. They agreed to come together and kill this bad guy. And then they, without going into the story, essentially they already had a reason to be there. They gathered together, all right, we've already decided we're going to do this task. And then they set about doing the task. Granted, that was only halfway through the story when they completed it, but point being is have a reason for them to go on the adventure you got for them and have them already know each other. It just makes it easier and quicker. The whole idea that you have to route them back to the story all the time really mostly comes about when you have them with their original characters that don't necessarily have a reason to do this. Like, if you have their original characters, maybe if they just bring in their PCs from other games, you know, and, oh, you meet in tavern. Oh, hey, this stuff goes down. There's no actual reason for them to do that. And like, oh, I already got stuff going on over there. Why do I have to do that? They don't have to, so the player, especially if they're being ornery, might not want to. So it's just easier. It's less work for you, less work for you in the game to have them go along on the adventure because your characters are already routed that way. Your character has already decided to do this, and that's kind of the agreement going in for them, between them and their character. So, to recap, design your adventure to be short. Shorter is better than longer. A good way to do it is design around 3 big scenes with minor scenes, putting them together. You might have a little intro scene and a little conclusion scene at the end there, but 3 big scenes you want to center it around. Then you want to, or another way to help cut time down and help you keep your players focused on the adventure for that time period is to come up with pre-made characters. Have those pre-made characters know each other. Have those pre-made characters already have motivation, have a reason, an investment in what's going on in your story. And number 3, be sure to spell out those characters' history, their motivations, and their relationships to one another, like how they feel about each of the other potential characters. And finally, be sure to have more characters than you have players, just so you have a variety for those players to choose from so that they can pick their favorite character and run that. And if it's their favorite character, they're going to be more likely to invest themselves in running that character than to just run the mechanics of that character. So, I hope that was helpful for some of you guys, for anyone looking to run a one-shot, or maybe if you're going to a con. These are just some ways that I use, and I've seen others use, to run a succinct one-shot. And remember, if it's running a little short, that's fine. That's better than having to cut it off early, or having to wrap things up super quick without actually going into the final battle or whatever. Remember that shorter is better than longer in this case, because you're running in a succinct experience. I hope that was helpful for you guys. Again, I may go back and redo this in a more coherent way in a proper Fourth Wall episode, but for right now, consider this okay, I can't think of a way to combine the word vlog with Fourth Wall, vlog wall episode. Yeah, see, she just suggested 4th vlog episode. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that, found that helpful. Have a good weekend. Have a good Halloween. If I don't see you, I'm hoping to have I'm hoping to do at least something for you for Halloween. But happy Halloween, happy October, happy All Hallows Eve, Dia de los Muertos. Have a good time, guys. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye. I need to click the thing, but